Hey, New Life, we are doing a podcast, and we're doing something a little bit unique. We're going to be taking some of the topics from our sermons and talking about them every week. Since the sermon series we're doing is called Deeper Conversations, we want to model that. We want to have some deeper conversations. We want to talk about the topic of the week. So this past week, we went into the need for legacy and really keeping the end in mind. I just thought I would just jump right into this with you guys and ask you, why is it important for us to think about how we're going to end life? What are the things that people will say at our memorial service, or what are the characteristics that we'll be known by? We have an opportunity to really pick our legacy. And so why is that significant? And I just wanted to throw it out there.
I think it's kind of cool to compare life to a marathon, right? And so if you have an end goal in mind and you're like, I'm going to complete this marathon, it's a lot easier if you're say 25 miles in to be I only have 1 mile left. But if you don't really have that end goal in mind, you might get tired at 10 miles and not live all the way up to your full potential. So when you have a goal, it's a lot easier to work towards it because you know maybe how much you have left or steps that you need to take in order to get there.
Yeah,
just some thoughts.
I like it.
Let me give you an example of a person who did a lousy job. And it's interesting because I'm going to talk just really quickly, Hezekiah the king. And if you know anything about the Old Testament, you know Hezekiah was an amazing man of God, and he accomplished all kinds of exploits for the kingdom of God. And he restored things that had been lost to Israel. He put biblical principles in place, and he was known for this. He was initially attacked by a guy by the name of Sennacherib, who was out to destroy him. And he sought God with passion and says, God, what do I do? And the Lord sent an angel. And one night, as a result of Hezekiah's prayer, one angel came and killed 186,000 enemies.
Wow.
And that's angel power, baby.
Wow, that
angel
is.
Power. Just one angel, one night. Not long after that, Hezekiah was told to get your house in order. You're going to die. And the prophet told him that. And Hezekiah, again, he turned to God and said, God, man, don't do this to me. Look at how I've lived for you. And God, I've served you. And literally, before the prophet could get outside of the courtyard, God speaks to him and says, go back and tell Hezekiah he's got 15 more years. I mean, that's a powerful prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Check this out. After all of those amazing exploits, Babylonians hear that Hezekiah had been healed of this condition that he was going to die of. But of course, that changed. And the Babylonians came and began. Hezekiah felt really full of himself. He showed these Babylonians everything in his arsenal. He showed them all of his riches, his wealth, his weaponry, and everything, and just flaunted this. As they were leaving, the prophet Isaiah comes and says, who is that? Well, it was Babylon. What were they here for? Well, they wanted to just thank me that I was going to do better and live. And said, what did you show them? I showed them everything. Everything? Everything. Why would you do that? Well, I just want to boast a little bit, I guess. And Isaiah the prophet says, they're going to come back and they're going to turn your children into slaves. And they're going to take everything that you showed them and take it away to Babylon. Everything. Your weapons, your gold, your silver, your wealth, everything. Now, this is what it has to do with legacy. Hezekiah says to the prophet Isaiah, well, as long as it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I'm good with it. Lexi just flinched when I said that. He literally said, as long as it doesn't happen in my lifetime, if it happens after I die, which is what Isaiah the prophet says, after you die, they're going to turn your kids into slaves, your very children and your grandchildren. And he says, well, that's cool.
Wow.
Now think about this. This is a man that had done so many unbelievable exploits for God. But when it came to the end of his life, and it came to the time when he should be solidifying his legacy, he basically caved and he said, well, Babylonians are going to come in and take over. because I was stupid, and I shouldn't have done it, but I did. And think about the other times. When Sennacherib was intimidating him, talking about him going to destroy him, Sennacherib was of the Assyrians. Hezekiah prayed like a wild man. He cried out to God. Then when he got sick and told to get his house in order, he's going to die, Hezekiah prayed like a wild man. He cried out to God. Now he's hearing that the Babylonians are going to come in and just destroy the city, Jerusalem, which they did. I mean, burn it and ruin the whole city. And Hezekiah's told this, and he's going to even take your children and grandchildren and turn them into slaves. He didn't pray. He didn't cry out to God. Because, not getting into it theologically, but God, as it were, changed his mind about his sickness after he prayed. Why not pray then? Why not pray again? He doesn't pray. He simply says, well, as long as it doesn't happen while I'm alive, I'm cool.
Wow.
We can't have that attitude. We can't.
I think we do, though, sometimes.
We do.
I think all we care about is like the present moment.
Exactly.
And what will affect us.
Yeah.
And I don't think we think nearly enough about our children and our children's children.
Exactly.
And it's like, even from Sunday, looking at David, and he made his share of mistakes, that's for sure, but seeing his passion for that temple to be built, and to leave that legacy for people to have a place to meet with God.
Exactly.
And to me, that's just a really, really encouraging thing to think that we can do the same thing.
Sorry, that was a great telling of the story. And now I'm fascinated, and I have more questions than comments. But how do we lose our way? How do we start the marathon knowing we're heading for 26 miles, and yet on the 5th mile or the 12th mile we veer off somehow? Well,
that is a very good question.
Thanks. That's all I got, really.
That's why you're here, man.
Yeah. I mean, you think. I say I have a responsibility to my children and my grandchildren. Let me give you a personal example of how this has impacted me. My dad contracted prostate cancer, and he died at the age of 65. Now, that's relatively young. And he didn't believe in preventative maintenance. He believed you go to the doctor when you're sick, Well, in the sense of some cancers, that's too late. And I saw that. He came to Christ just like 2 weeks before he passed away, by the way. A friend of mine lived in Christ. But because he died so early, I made it a point of going to get what's called your PSAs. I get on an annual basis. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't something genetic that would lead me to die at an early age. But check it out. There was. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it appears that I contracted it around the same age that he was. Literally. And it would not have been diagnosed, it would not have been caught or detected had I not been diligent in having these annual tests just to make sure. And the doctor says to me, I don't think it's anything. I think you probably had an infected prostate. That's all, no big deal. And we go back, we do all these kinds of things. And finally, Christmas Eve, I get a call from my doctor, and this guy says, Don, you have prostate cancer, man. You got 3 spots on your prostate gland, and 2 of them are aggressive. I said, are you telling me I have prostate cancer? He said, yeah. Whoa. It was caught, and it was dealt with. And after it was dealt with, the doctor calls me and says, Don, Mr. Lewis called me and said, man, I was wrong. This thing was aggressive, and we caught it just in time. He'd been telling me all along, now, we're early, and I don't even think you have it, but then he finally, yeah, you do have it. And he said, but we're early, we got it, and everything's under control, so don't worry. This guy calls me after I go through a procedure, and my prostate was taken out, and he could see it in ways he could not see it as long as it was inside of me, and he says, Don, we caught this just in time.
Wow.
You were millimeters away from this thing spreading throughout your body. Now, what does this have to do with legacy? It's the fact that I told my congregation, literally, in Shawnee, Kansas, I do not have the right to not take care of my physical body. I do not have the right to just kind of coast along and not be concerned, because I saw things in my genetic makeup based on my dad's passing and when he passed away. I owe my children and my grandchildren something. I owe them something. Sunday morning, I'm talking to my congregation saying that I owe them something, my children and my grandchildren. And I will not, because I have 4 children. They're all grown now. Only 3 of them saw my dad, and my daughter doesn't remember him at all. Mm-hmm. My youngest son was born after my dad passed away. So the 2 older boys, vague memories of my dad. And I told my congregation, I don't have the right to not be there for the raising of my children and my grandchildren. Mm-hmm. I don't. And so that was motivating me to go and get annual tests. Yeah. And that's part of legacy. Yeah. That's part of legacy. Was that it isn't just what I do now. It isn't just how things are going right now. I have to think beyond Don Lewis. I have to think about the future. Mm-hmm. I have to think about next generations. And let me just throw this in and I'll shut up. Check this out. If you want to do something interesting, go through the scriptures and look at how many amazing, famous kings and sometimes prophets who ended their lives poorly. It's shocking. It's shocking. I mean, even Solomon ended poorly. You know who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes? Vanity of vanities, all his vanities. Yeah. Solomon. You know when he wrote it? The end of his life. Yep. End of his life. Wow. There's a lot of guys that ended very poorly. I mean, they did phenomenal things while they were alive, and then you get towards the end of their life. It's like they get tired, and they lose sight, and they lose that passion, that vision, and that focus.
You know, and that's probably the most important time to keep focused.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have all of life experience at the end of your life, you've got so much to offer. Mm-hmm. And maybe Satan tempts us more at those times.
I would imagine.
You know, that could be.
Yeah.
You know, but Jeff, to your point, and your question as you've been answering it, is like, how do we get off track? You know, because you're 19, you've got your whole life ahead of you. You have goals and ambitions, right? Yep. You want to do well. You want to make a difference. You want to do some good things. So how do we go from there, where we're dreaming and envisioning, really doing God's work in this world, to missing it? And you know, maybe some of it comes back to big bad decisions we make, but man, some of it I think comes back to like, we just get busy. We just get into this rat race of life, and we pack our schedules full.
Yeah. It reminds me of the story of like Mary and Martha. And it's like Mary's like focused on Jesus, right? And Martha isn't doing a bad thing, right? She's busy, she's serving people, but she just lost focus. And
That's
Jesus
good.
reprimanded her, not Mary.
And
That's
she was the
very
one
good.
serving too.
And
super busy.
Helping people. I think sometimes there's just like one little loss of focus, distraction, something.
Yeah.
It's been said that good is best, worst enemy. Yeah.
It's good wisdom.
Yeah, that is good.
Well, part of these podcasts that we want to do every week is also to get comfortable asking people questions about legacy.
Yeah.
You know, so if we're in a workplace setting and we're having a conversation about the Chiefs playoffs run and you know where we're going to go, how do we transition from surface level conversation like, oh, it rained today, I hope all the snow melted, to you know, to the Chiefs, to the basic like handful of things we talk about? How do we dig in and say, man, I would love to hear something more about your passions in life? Like, why are you, what are the big things you want to accomplish? I'd love to hear that sometime. Are there other ways that we can begin a conversation, just practically speaking, and ask people about their legacy that they want to leave? And I think the point of this is to encourage them to leave that legacy. But then as we listen well, to wonder, okay, does this person really even understand what their legacy should be, why God made them?
Yeah.
Because I believe God made us, and I believe God made us, we all do, of course, made us for a purpose. And so does this person understand that, hey, God made you for a purpose so that you could accomplish things for the kingdom? And how do we begin that conversation? Yeah. And that's where fulfillment and satisfaction comes in. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a way to so I'm moving toward the chronologically advanced quickly.
We're all aging at the same pace, Jeff. Nobody's getting faster than anybody else.
What do you got going on that we don't understand?
It might feel quicker, but we're all aging one day at a time, man. And you're running a 5K this spring, brother. It's here. You heard it.
Yeah, you did that. So the question, which again in kind of trying to help generate and facilitate deeper conversations, at some point we have to ask the question, how are we going to end well? Yeah. And because it's okay to talk, because we all will end on this earth. Yep. And so why not start with how are we going to end well? And just as we've been talking today is I think one of the distractions, especially as you get older, and I know for me, slow down a little, much slower than when I was 25, is there is a weariness that sets in, but that goes to, one of the points in the sermon Sunday is, where are we going to get our strength? Where are we going to get our power? Where are we going to get that fight from? And it has to come from something supernatural, because the natural is waning. And so, that's where the conversation then, as we're engaging with these folks, is can say, yeah, physically we're decaying, but spiritually we're growing. And so how do we take a next step in that?
Yeah, that's good.
That is good. Well,
I mean, just kind of turning the corner here, but thinking back to the sermon and David and some of the practical things that he did, he was able to, I think if we look at 1 Chronicles 29, one of the things David was able to do was to be devoted. He was committed to it. He's like, I'm in. I've made mistakes, but I am committed to building this temple. I'm committed to leaving this legacy.
That's good.
And he worshiped.
That's good.
He worshiped along the way. I think that's something we have to do every single day. Yeah. And he had a great grasp of his own depravity. He was like, I'm nothing. I've accomplished nothing. Yeah. And so for those of us that are here, I mean, these are some practical ways to do it. But man, I would love to hear more from you guys. But if you're listening and you can put some stuff in the comments just regarding your own legacy or some things that you'd like to leave, we'd love to follow up on that, discuss it more. For sure.
That is cool. So cool.
Yeah. So you can leave it in the comments if you have some thoughts as far as legacy goes. If you have questions, or maybe you're listening, you're like, man, legacy is the last thing I want to think about right now. I am just struggling with life. I need somebody to pray with me, or just talk with me. We're here, and we want to help you. And so you can shoot us an email to info@newlifekc.org. We'll follow up with that. You can send a prayer request to prayer@newlifekc.org. You can give us a call at the church. It's 816-421-7729. But we're on a journey. It's a marathon. It's a long one. Yeah. Some of us are different mile markers. Jeff's claiming he's like pushing past mile 16 or something. Lexi's like just getting into that first part of it. Yeah. I don't know where you are, Pastor Don. We'll figure that out later. Yeah. But we're on this thing, and so let's work together. Let's help each other. Let's encourage one another. But together we can leave a legacy that's meaningful and lasts a lot longer than our actual physical life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for joining in. We'll be back next week talking about conscience.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.